First girl, serious advice: you need to stop making decisions and choices. Find a man in your family who is sensible and who really cares about you, and just take their advice seriously. Also, abandon feminism. It's truly poison. Okay, you guys are all just like really misogynistic.
What does that even mean?
Okay, I have to ask, what is with feminists and nose rings? This is a question that's been burning the back of my soul for the last decade and a half. How can you possibly think you could be taken seriously when you take your own money and exchange it for a piece of metal to be shoved through your septum? Do you realize that you've lost 99.9% of your credibility when you do that? It doesn't make you look smart. Quite the opposite. It makes you look like an emotional wreck who wasted her life in the pursuit of idiocy, which you clearly are.
How do you define misogyny? Are you okay? Like, do you want to go as in leave? Is it because I asked how you define misogyny? Is that?
I don't know. He's asking me to abandon feminism. It's like, do you even know what feminism is?
No, and I don't care.
That's the point, woman. Nobody can identify feminism. There are no logical arguments to be had with the subject. It involves intellectually devoid women who burn bras, demand superior treatment in the workplace, and claim that giving birth is the most oppressive thing that men have ever done to women. That's about it. But if you try to actually ask a woman to define feminism, they'll just become an emotional wreck because they refuse to believe that they devoted their lives to a baseless ideology that has led them to an empty life of loneliness and dissatisfaction.
Shut your dirty little mouth!
So you're already talking about like pornography and like no man is gonna marry, like, yes, there are men that will marry women that do pornography, but you were also talking about how there's a lot of men that are judgmental of that.
If you want to leave, you can leave. I was hoping we could continue having a conversation, but
I think that was the first time in her life she was faced with like the truth of and the consequences of her actions. And
this is just so shocking. I mean, I must just be so monumentally naive.
You are.
This is how weak most feminist arguments are. The very second this woman is hit with basic facts that most 12-year-olds possess, she immediately starts acting like she's being held hostage at Nakatomi Plaza. This woman is trying to kid herself into thinking that there is a simp out there who will marry her despite the fact that her sloppy gunk pot of unimaginable suffering has been virtually destroyed thanks to her terrible life choices. But instead of owning up to those decisions, she's going to resort to trying to make Brian here look like Hans Gruber. Sorry, lady, Brian isn't that fashionable, and unlike Holly McClain, you have no dignity whatsoever.
Use all men in your life. So manipulate and use all men for your gain. If a man shows interest or a crush, use him to get ahead and whatever that person can offer you. Use anyone and everyone of the male species to get ahead in your own life.
Whoa.
You know, it's interesting. When I first saw this video, I thought this woman was a cyborg because she sounded exactly like a robot. Then I realized that was impossible because robots aren't this stupid. And it's really unfortunate that this woman thinks using, manipulating, and psychologically abusing men is somehow a viable career prospect, but something tells me that we're looking at the world's most popular guidance counselor for the year 2024, and I wish I was only half kidding.
If someone is giving you a little bit of things, gifts, but it's not enough, take it and get another one. Use as many as possible, and anyone that has a crush on you, use them. For example, if you get into an Uber, if you're in a store, if you're walking down the street, if a doorman has a crush on you, get perks, use them to your advantage, manipulate and pretend you have a crush to gain and get more.
Lady, you're scaring us.
You know what? I spoke too soon. I'm taking back that guidance counselor statement because this is some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. How can you use a doorman for perks? Do you just expect him to open up that door extra good or something? And grocery store clerks? Lady, I hate to break it to you, but there isn't a whole lot of perks to be had there either. You can forget about using their store discount. That 5% is only on generic brand items and for immediate family members only, and management enforces that rule with an iron fist.
Give fake numbers, phone numbers if you have to. Give fake information, fake names if you have to. Have 5 or 6 names, 5 or 6 personalities, and that day pick whichever one you want to use to gain and manipulate from as many men as possible. Because if you are gaining from multiple men, you will end up a very wealthy, beautiful woman.
Are you sure?
You know what's really sad? If an average woman were to go out and just genuinely be a nice person, she could potentially find herself a man and a long-term relationship. It's something that could lead to stability, security, and contentment. Though it wouldn't be perfect, and it would take some work to be sure, but not nearly the amount of work it would take to collect a bunch of fake phone numbers, fake identities, and come up with an infinite number of cockamamie schemes just to con men out of their money. But then again, I don't think this creature has thought that far ahead, because she strikes me as the type of woman who eats lukewarm chicken cooked to medium rare.
I'm sure I'll delete this, but I recently got, as my therapist would say, duped. Also, as she would say, I duped myself. Became entangled with someone whose intentions I thought were something different than they were. So, like, I'm 30, right? Situations like this hold weight because I've been through it so many times before. I just have all of this, like, accumulated trauma. And I'm at an age where I feel like I'm running out of time to meet somebody to have children.
Remember, your biological clock is ticking.
So you allowed yourself to be in a prolonged situationship. The reality is that you have terrible taste in men, woman. You have spent the most fertile years of your life going after men who were either wrong for you or were beyond your league. Now you're reaching the age of 30 and you are now trying to trap an average dude with your spawn because you're desperate to have children. You're also mentioning that you have a lot of psychological baggage. So why the hell would any man want to get with you now?
But anyways, true to my typical form, I was trying to take responsibility for my role in the equation. And so I reached out to a friend who's a man and I asked, from your perspective, is there something that I could do differently to not be recurrently duped in the same way? Like, what about me specifically makes men want to behave deceptively, to smash? Like, my point here is that I would smash willingly. In this case, there was no trickery required, but the person was still dishonest. And that's the part that I cannot figure out.
Why do men lie to you? Gee, let me think. It's because you're stupid and gullible. It's really not that complicated. Chad and Tyrone have a list of scripts that they perform whenever they want to make you mustier than a Turkish steam room in August, and you fall for it every time because you want to believe that it's true. And let's just be real here. If it wasn't for that particular brand of tomfoolery, you wouldn't have wanted to bump uglies in the first place. So don't act like you would have done it regardless, because you're a terrible liar and it really doesn't help your case.
And I should have known before I asked, but this guy's answer was, the reason that you get duped is because you try to appeal to the male gaze. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even wear makeup. He said, you appeal to the male gaze by getting Botox. And the thing he was referring to is that I got my 11s done a few months ago. It's something that makes me feel insecurely. So the Botox is something that I wanted to do for myself. Whatever, I don't have to defend it.
Say, what now? What now?
Woman, for starters, don't ask questions if the answers are going to upset you. Nobody is asking you to defend your stupid cosmetic injections because most of us really don't care. But you have to admit, those injections made you feel less insecure, more confident, and it made you feel good when men were paying attention to you. So naturally, you're attracted to that, and that led you down the road of poor life decisions. It would be a lot easier if you just owned up to your terrible decision making, but we already know that's impossible. So you're just gonna get angry with your friend at being honest with you.
And then I realized the truth that I always come back to, which is that if you ask any man that question, he's just gonna give you some projection of his own idea of what women should be. Which is to say that when a man takes advantage of you in whatever way, there's nothing that you could have done to prevent it. It is not your fault. It's a conditioned and systemic dynamic. As a society, we traumatize girls, women, and then we pathologize their trauma. There's nothing you can do to protect yourself from the destruction of men.
You! I will think of you as I throw up into the toilet.
Ah, the old standby, blaming society. It's society's fault that you make terrible decisions with your time, your money, and your life. Okay, fine. If that's the case, you go on ahead and keep telling that to yourself. Just keep lying to yourself that there's nothing wrong with you and it's literally the entire planet that's wrong. Just keep telling yourself those lies, but just be forewarned, lying to yourself isn't the same as when Chad and Tyrone lied to you, because unlike you, they actually possess a vocabulary of more than just 6 words. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. As always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.